and Mother Lakshmi. Then one should smell the remnants of the food offered, and then again worship the Lord and Lakshmi Ji. Text number 17. Accepting her husband as the representative of the Supreme Person, a wife should worship him with unalloyed devotion by offering him prasada. The husband, being very pleased with his wife, should engage himself in the affairs of his family. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The family relationship of husband and wife should be established spiritually according to the process mentioned above. And what is that process mentioned above? With devotion and humility, one should offer prayers to the Lord and Mother Lakshmi. Then one should smell the remnants of the food offered, and then again worship the Lord with Lakshmi, and worship the Lord and Lakshmi. Text number 18. Between a husband and wife, one person is sufficient to execute this devotional service because of their good relationship. Both of them both of them will enjoy the results. Therefore, if the wife is unable to execute this process, the husband should carefully do so, and the faithful wife will share the results. Okay, that's nice. It means either one or the other will do everything necessary for both. Purport. The relationship between husband and wife is firmly established when the wife is faithful and the husband is sincere. Then, even if the wife, being weaker, is unable to execute devotional service with her husband, if she is chaste and sincere, she shares half of her husband's activities. Okay, Haribol. Jai. The main point is that the wife is chaste and sincere, even if she can't do everything that the husband is doing, as far as chanting and so forth. But as long as she is uh, devoted to her husband and chaste, then she shares half of her husband's activities. Text number 19 and 20. One should accept this Vishnu Vrata, which is a vow in devotional service, and should not deviate from its execution to engage in anything else. By offering the remnants of prasada, flower garlands, sandalwood pulp, and ornaments, one should daily worship the brahmanas and worship women who peacefully live with their husbands and children. Every day, the wife must continue following the regulative principles to worship Lord Vishnu with great devotion. Thereafter, Lord Vishnu should be laid in his bed, and then one should take prasada. In this way, husband and wife will be purified and will have all their desires fulfilled. Hey, there you go. That is the way to have a very nice, happy marriage. In other words, that every day the wife must continue following the regulative principles to worship Lord Vishnu with great devotion. Thereafter, Lord Vishnu should be laid in his bed, and then one should partake prashada. In this way, husband and wife will be purified and will have all their desires fulfilled. Text 21. The chaste wife must perform such devotional service continuously for 1 year. After 1 year passes, she should fast on the full moon day in the month of Kartika, October, November. Well, that's where we are right now. Text 22. On the morning of the next day, one should wash oneself, and after worshiping Lord Krishna as before, one should cook as one cooks for festivals, as stated in the Grihaya Sutras. I wonder what that is. The Grihaya Sutras. Sweet rice. Okay, sweet rice should be cooked with ghee, and with this preparation, the husband should offer oblations. In other words, offering food to the fire 12 times. Okay. Well, oblations 12 times, meaning you're putting the ghee 12 times into the fire. Text 23. Thereafter, he should satisfy the brahmanas. When the satisfied brahmanas bestow their blessings, he should devotedly offer them respectful obeisances with his head, and with their permission, he should take prashada. Okay. First, the brahmanas should be fed nicely, and then the devotee, getting permission of the brahmanas, can take prashada. Text 24. Before taking his meal, the husband must first seat the acharya comfortably, and along with his relatives and friends, should control his speech and offer prashada to the guru. Then the wife should eat the remnants of the oblation of sweet rice cooked with ghee. Eating the remnants ensures a learned, devoted son and all good fortune. How about that? That's a wonderful statement. You want to have a very good, devoted son. Text 25. If the vow or ritualistic ceremony is observed according to the description of Shastra, even in this life, a man will be able to achieve all the benedictions he desires from the Lord. A wife who performs this ritualistic ceremony will surely receive good fortune, opulent sons, a long living husband, a good reputation, and a good home. Okay, well, these are all ways of attaining a peaceful and happy life. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bengal, even today, if a woman lives for a long time with her husband, she is considered very fortunate. A woman generally desires a good husband, good children, a good home, prosperity, opulence, and so on. As recommended in this verse, a woman will receive all these desirable benedictions, and a man will also be able to receive all benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, by performing this particular type of vrata, a man and a woman in Krishna consciousness will be happy in this material world. And because of being Krishna conscious, they will be promoted to the spiritual world. Wow, there it is. Gotta chant your rounds every day and give up any type of sinful activity, and you will be very peaceful and eventually be promoted to the spiritual world. Text 26 and 28. If an unmarried girl observes this vrata, she will be able to get a very good husband. If a woman who is avira, who has no husband or son, executes this ritualistic ceremony, she can be promoted to the spiritual world. A woman whose children have died after birth can get a child with a long duration of life and also become very fortunate in possessing wealth. If a woman is unfortunate, she will become fortunate. And if ugly, she will become beautiful. By observing this vrata, a diseased man can gain relief from his disease and have an able body with which to work. If one recites this narration while offering oblations to the pitas and demigods, especially during the Shraddha ceremony, the demigods and inhabitants of Pitraloka will be extremely pleased with him and bestow upon him the fulfillment of all desires. After one performs this ritualistic ceremony, Lord Vishnu and his wife, Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, are very pleased with him, O King Parikshit. Now I have completely described how Diti performed this ceremony and had good children, the Maruts, and a happy life. I have tried to explain this to you as elaborately as possible. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the sixth canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Performing the Pumsavana Ritualistic Ceremony. Ah, very nice. Pumsavana Ritualistic Ceremony. Okay, so now we will go to the next book. We just finished this whole book. Anything that, we're at the end. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the sixth canto, 19th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Performing the Pumsavana Ritualistic Ceremony. End of the sixth canto. Do we have the seventh canto? I'm sure we do. Yes. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, so now we're going to begin the seventh canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And we are on chapter 1. The Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. In this chapter, in response to the question by Maharaj Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami gives his conclusions concerning how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although the Supersoul, friend and protector of everyone, killed the Daityas, the demons, for the sake of Indra, the king of heaven. In his statements, he totally refutes the arguments of people in general who accuse the Supreme Lord of partiality. Sukadeva Goswami proves that because the body of the conditioned soul is infected by the three qualities of nature, by the three qualities of nature, dualities arise, such as enmity and friendship, attachment and detachment. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, there are no such dualities. Even eternal time cannot control the activities of the Lord. Eternal time is created by the Lord and it acts under his control. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore, is always transcendental to the influence of the modes of nature. Maya, the Lord's external energy, which acts in creation and annihilation. Thus, all the demons killed by the Supreme Lord attain salvation immediately. Okay, see that? That's good. The second question raised by Parikshit Maharaj concerns how Sisupala, although inimical toward Krishna from his very childhood and always blaspheming Krishna, attains salvation in oneness when Krishna kills him. Sukadeva Goswami explains that because of their offenses at the feet of devotees, two attendants of the Lord in Vaikuntha named Jaya and Vijaya became Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha in Satya Yuga, Ravana and Kumbhakarna in the next Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Sisupala and Dantavakra in the end of Dwapara Yuga. Because of their fruitive acts, Jaya and Vijaya, to become the Lord's enemies, agreed to become the Lord's enemies, and when killed in that mentality, they attained salvation in oneness. This and this even if one thus, even if one thinks of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in envy, he attains salvation. What then is it to be said of devotees who always engage in the Lord's service with love and faith? In other words, what then is to be said? Well, that such devotees will go back to Godhead for sure. Text number 1. King Parikshit inquired, my dear Brahmana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of um, King Parikshit inquired, my dear Brahmana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, being everyone's well-wisher, is equal and extremely dear to everyone. How then did he become partial like a common man for the sake of Indra and thus kill Indra's enemies? How can a person equal to everyone be partial to some and inimical toward others? Very good question. Let's see what the answer is. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita 9:29, the Lord says, Samaham sarvabhutesu na me vesostina priya. I am equal to everyone. No one is dear to me, nor is anyone my enemy. In the previous canto, however, it has been observed that the Lord sided with Indra by killing the demons on his account. Hata Putra, Diti Shakra Parsani Grahena Vishnuna. Therefore, the Lord was clearly partial to Indra, although he is the supreme, although he is the super soul in everyone's heart. The soul is extremely dear to everyone, and similarly, the super soul is also dear to everyone. Thus, there cannot be any faulty action on the part of the super soul. The Lord is always kind to all living entities, irrespective of form and situation. Yet, he took the side of Indra, just like an ordinary friend. This was the subject of Parikshit Maharaja's inquiry. As a devotee of Lord Krishna, he knew very well that Krishna cannot be partial to anyone. But when he saw that Krishna acted as the enemy of the demons, he was somewhat doubtful. Therefore, he posed this question to Sukadeva Goswami for a clear answer. A devotee cannot accept that Lord Vishnu has material qualifications. Maharaj Parikshit knew perfectly well that Lord Vishnu, being transcendental, has nothing to do with material qualities. But to confirm his conviction, he wanted to hear from the authority, Sukadeva Goswami. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura says, Samasya Katam Vaisamyam, since the Lord is equally disposed toward everyone, how can he be partial? Priyas, sorry, 1 second. Priyasya Katam Asureshu Priti Abhava. The Lord, being the super soul, is extremely dear to everyone. Why then should the Lord display unsympathetic behavior toward the asuras? How is this impartial? Sridas Chalakatam Teshvaso Hardam. Since the Lord says that he is Suridam Sarvabhutanam, the well-wisher of all living entities, how could he act with partiality by killing demons? These questions arose in the heart of Parikshit Maharaj, and therefore he inquired from Sukadeva Goswami. Yeah, he refers to Sukadeva Goswami like a good devotee should do. He should not simply make his own, his own concepts, but he should get some validation from a pure devotee like Sukadeva Goswami. Text 2. Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasure. Therefore, what benefit would he derive from siding with the demigods? What interest would he fulfill in this way? Excuse me. Since the Lord is transcendental, why should he fear the asuras? And how could he be envious of them? Okay, these are all good questions. Let's see what the answers are. Purport. We should always remember the distinction between spiritual and material. That which is material is infected by material qualities, but these qualities cannot touch that which is spiritual or transcendental. Krishna is absolute, whether he is in the material world or the spiritual world. Okay. When we see when we see partiality in Krishna, this vision is due to his external energy. Otherwise, how could his enemies attain salvation after being killed by him? Everyone who deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead gradually acquires the qualities of the Lord. Okay? The more one advances in spiritual consciousness, the less he is affected by the duality of material qualities. Now, see, that's a very important statement. The more one advances in spiritual consciousness, the less he is affected by the duality of material qualities. Very wonderful statement. Very, very wonderful statement. The Supreme Lord, therefore, must certainly be freed from these qualities. His enmity and friendship are external features presented by the material energy. He is always transcendental. He is absolute, whether he kills or bestows his favor. Envy and friendship arise in one who is imperfect. We fear our enemies because in the material world we are always in need of help. The Lord, however, does not need anyone's help, for he is Atma Rama. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachita Prayachita Prayachati Prayachati Tad Aham Bhakti Uparatam Asnami Prayatat Mana. If a devotee offers me with devotion a little leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I shall accept it. Why does the Lord say this? Is he dependent on the offering of the devotee? He is not actually dependent, but he likes to be dependent upon his devotee. This is his mercy. Similarly, he does not fear the asuras. Thus, there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Text number 3. O greatly fortunate and learned Brahmana, whether Narayana is partial or impartial, has become a subject of great doubt. Kindly dispel my doubt with positive evidence that Narayana is always neutral and equal to everyone. That's a very good question.
Yes.
Very, very good question to ask. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since Lord Narayana is absolute, his transcendental qualities are described as one. In other words, he's not wishy-washy. Thus, his punishments and his offerings of favor are both of the same value. Essentially, his inimical actions are not displays of enmity toward his so-called enemies. But in the material field, one thinks that Krishna is favorable to devotees and unfavorable to non-devotees. When Krishna finally instructs in Bhagavad Gita Sarvadharman Prityaja Mamekam Saranamraja. This is meant not only for Arjuna, but for every living entity within this universe. Sarvadharman Prityaja Mam Ekam Saranamraja. Yeah, the Lord is not in any way partial. He's equal to everyone. Text 4 and 5. The great sage Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear king, you have put before me an excellent question. See, it's good to ask questions. Discourses concerning the activities of the Lord, in which the glories of his devotees are also found, are extremely pleasing to devotees. Such wonderful topics always counteract the miseries of the materialistic way of life. Therefore, great sages like Narada always speak upon Srimad Bhagavatam because it gives one the facility to hear and chant about the wonderful activities of the Lord. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva and then begin describing topics concerning the activities of Lord Hari, meaning Krishna. Purport. In this verse, Sukadeva Goswami offers his respectful obeisances. Krishnaya Munaye, which means to Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa. One must first offer one's respectful obeisances to one's spiritual master. Sukadeva Goswami's spiritual master is his father, Vyasadeva, and therefore he first offers his respectful obeisances to Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, and then begins describing topics of Lord Hari. When there is an opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord, we must take it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always engage in Krishna Katha by chanting and talking about Krishna and hearing about him. That is the only occupation of a Krishna conscious person. So, what is that? One should always engage in Krishna Katha by chanting and talking about Krishna and hearing about him. That is the only occupation of a Krishna conscious person. Okay. No baseball, no football, no basketball, only Krishna. Text number 6. Yeah, it's really funny. Sometimes, when there's a big game, sometimes devotees want to, go and find out who's going to win, who's going to lose. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is always transcendental to material qualities, and therefore he is called nirguna, or without qualities. Let me read that again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is always transcendental to material qualities, and therefore he is called nirguna, or without qualities, because he is unborn. He does not have a material body to be subjected to attachment and hatred. Although the Lord is always above material existence, through his spiritual potency, he appeared and acted like an ordinary human being, accepting duties and obligations, apparently like a conditioned soul. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So-called attachment, detachment, and obligations pertain to the material nature. which is an emanation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But whenever the Lord descends and acts in this material world, he does so in his spiritual position. See, that's a very important and significant statement. We should never think that the Lord's activities are mundane, although they might appear like that. Although his activities materially appear different, spiritually they are absolute and non-different. Thus, it is an imposition upon the Supreme Lord to say that he is envious of anyone or friendly to anyone. Yes, that is true. In Bhagavad Gita 9:11, the Lord clearly says, Avajananti mamudha manasim tanam asritam. Fools deride me when I descend in a human form. Krishna appears on this earth or within this universe without any change in his spiritual body or spiritual qualities. Indeed, he is never influenced by the material qualities. He is always free from such qualities, but he appears to act under the material influence. This understanding is aropita, or an imposition. Therefore, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam, whatever he does, being always transcendental, has nothing to do with the material qualities. Evam yo veti tattvata. Only devotees can understand the truth of how he acts. The fact is that Krishna is never partial to anyone. He is always equal to everyone, but because of imperfect vision, influenced by material qualities, one imposes material qualities upon Krishna. And when one does so, he becomes a mudha. A mudha, meaning someone is really stupid, a fool. When one can properly understand the truth, one becomes devoted and nirguna, free from material qualities. Simply by understanding the activities of Krishna, one can become transcendental. And as soon as one is transcendental, he is fit to be transferred to the transcendental world. Jatpadeham Punarjanma Naitimam Eti Swarjana, one who understands the activities of the Lord in truth, meaning understanding correctly, is transferred to the spiritual world after he gives up his material body. Haribol. Text number 7. My dear King Parikshit, the material qualities, Sattvaguna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna, all belong to the material world and do not even touch the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three gunas cannot act by increasing or decreasing simultaneously. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Well, in other words, these material qualities, sattva guna, rajaguna, and tamaguna, never affect the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: the original position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one of equality. There is no question of his being influenced by sattva guna, rajoguna, or tamoguna. For these material qualities cannot touch the Supreme Lord. The Lord is therefore called Supreme Ishvara. Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the supreme controller. He controls the material qualities. Daivi Esa Gunamayi Mamamaya Durataya. Maya Dakshena Pakriti Suyate. Material nature, Pakriti, works under his order. How then can he be under the qualities of Prakriti? Krishna is never influenced by the material qualities. Therefore, there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though it may look like that, but it is not like that. Text number 8. When the quality of goodness is prominent, the sages and demigods flourish with the help of that quality, with which they are infused and surcharged by the Supreme Lord. Yeah, so we should always try and be in the mode of goodness, and even better, in transcendental goodness. Similarly, when the mode of passion is prominent, the demons flourish. And when ignorance is prominent, the yakshas and rakshasas flourish. Yeah, we can see that. Sometimes people get really angry and they start breathing heavily, and their eyes become almost falling out of their head. So all that is for the demons, not for the devotees. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is present in everyone's heart, fostering the reactions of Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not partial to anyone. The conditioned soul is under the influence of the various modes of material nature. And behind material nature is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one's victory and loss under the influence of Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna are reactions of these modes, not of the Supreme Lord's partiality. Yeah, in other words, the living entity has limited free will. So he can misuse that limited free will and then become influenced by the gunas. That is because the living entity is not following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness and becomes influenced by the gunas. Srila Jiva Goswami in the Bhagavad Sandarbha has clearly said, according to this statement of the Bhagavata Sandarbha, the Supreme Lord, being always transcendental to the material qualities, is never affected by the influence of these qualities. This same characteristic is also present in the living being, but because he is conditioned by material nature, even the pleasure potency of the Lord is manifested in the conditioned soul as troublesome. In the material world, the pleasure enjoyed by the conditioned soul is followed by many painful conditions. Okay, now that's a very important statement. I want to stop there for a second and discuss this. Whenever there is sense gratification, and this is a rule of nature, it'll be followed by misery. Therefore, we should never engage in sense gratification because it's a law of nature. It'll always be followed by misery. For instance, we have seen that in the two great wars, which were conducted by the Rajaguna and Tamaguna, both parties were actually ruined. Yeah, that's a fact. World War I, World War II. The German people declared war against the English to ruin them. But the result was that both parties were ruined. Although the Allies were apparently victorious, at least on paper, actually neither of them were victorious. Yeah, look at how many people died, how many men and women died in these First War and Second War. Huge number of people. Therefore, it should be concluded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not partial to anyone. Everyone works under the influence of various modes of material nature. And when the various modes are prominent, the demigods or demons appear victorious under the influence of these modes. Everyone enjoys the fruits of his qualitative activities. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.11-13. The manifestations of the modes of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illumined by knowledge. O chief of Bharata, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, uncontrollable desire, hankering, and intense endeavor develop. So this happens a lot in with kids who are in their uh, uh, like like where they're like uh, 18, 19, or 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They're overwhelmed by the gunas and they begin acting very strangely, wanting to, being overwhelmed by sense gratification. Therefore, it says, uh, O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, uncontrollable desire, hankering, and intense endeavor develop. And you can see this in kids that are in their, uh, when they become uh, uh, like 13, 14, 15.
Teenagers.
Yeah, yes. They become very influenced by the mode of passion. O son of Kuru, when there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, madness, illusion, inertia, and darkness are manifested. The Supreme Personality Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart, simply gives the results of the increase in the various qualities, but he is impartial. He supervises victory and loss, but he does not take part in them. The various modes of material nature do not work all at once. The interactions of these modes are exactly like seasonal changes. Sometimes there is an increment of Rajaguna, sometimes of Tamaguna, and sometimes of Sattvaguna. Generally, the demigods are surcharged with Sattvaguna, and therefore, when the demons and the demigods fight, the demigods are victorious because of the prominence of their Sattvaguna qualities. However, this is not the partiality of the Supreme Lord. Okay, so if a person becomes transcendentally situated, he is not influenced by these different gunas. He remains neutral and dedicated completely to serving the Supreme Lord. But when one is influenced by the gunas, then he takes sides and he gets involved in all kinds of uh, activities that are not necessarily Krishna consciousness. And that's a very great mistake. Text number 9. The all pervading personality of Godhead exists within the heart of every living entity. And an expert thinker can perceive how he is present there to a large or small extent. Just as one can understand the supply of fire in wood, the water in a water pot, or the sky within a pot. one can understand whether a living entity is a demon or a demigod by understanding that living entity's devotional performances. A thoughtful man can understand how much a person is favored by the Supreme Lord by seeing his actions. Yeah. So if someone is always engaged in Krishna conscious activities, you can understand that that person is actually a devotee. He's following regulative principles. He's always engaged in devotional service and does not waver. That is the genuine devotee who is transcendently situated. But if someone is wishy washy, sometimes happy, sometimes miserable, sometimes Krishna conscious, and sometimes engaging in nonsense activities, now you can understand that that person is not in control of his mind and his senses and cannot actually think clearly about what to do and what not to do. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In Bhagavad Gita, the word says, Yad yad vibhutimat sattvam, shimad urjitam eva va, tad eva jagacha tvam, eva vachgacha tvam, mam tejo misha sambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. We have the practical experience of seeing that one person is able to do very wonderful things, whereas another cannot do those same things and cannot even do things that require only a little common sense. Therefore, how much a devotee has been favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead can be tested by the activities the devotee has performed. In Bhagavad Gita 10.10, the Lord also says, Tesam satatayuktanam vajatam pratipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted and who worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. This is very practical. A teacher instructs the student if the student is capable of taking more and more instructions. Yeah, I mean there are schools, public or private schools, where the kids are not interested in learning, and they usually, don't do well academically because they have other things in their mind. They're not focusing on doing their homework, not focusing on hearing properly. Sometimes, in a school where there's like 40 or 50 kids in the classroom, there's always going to be two or three that are doing nonsense things. And that influences the other kids who are really interested in learning. Therefore, many times in some schools, they separate the kids who are nonsense from the kids who are really interested in learning. Those are advanced courses. So uh, one can understand the qualification of a person who is able to hear very, let's say, especially to hear very intensely uh, when something is being spoken and being able to answer very expertly questions because they're hearing. Their mind is not wavering. But when a person is not really interested in a subject, is more interested in baseball, basketball, football, and all kinds of nonsense activities, he can't think clearly and he makes mistakes and he does not really do well academically because his mind is always wandering here and there. Okay, so Therefore, it says, to those who are constantly devoted and who worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Okay, so two major points. Constantly devoted and worship of Krishna with love. Krishna gives the understanding by which they can come to Krishna. This is very practical. A teacher instructs the student if the student is capable of taking more and more instructions. Otherwise, in spite of being instructed by the teacher, the student cannot make strides in his understanding. In other words, it doesn't make any advancement in his understanding. This has nothing to do with partiality. When Krishna says, Tesam satati yuktanam vachatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam, this indicates that Krishna is prepared to give bhakti yoga to everyone. But, and that's a big but, one must be capable of receiving it. That is the secret. Yeah, you can see there are some kids, they come to school and they do their homework and they get good grades because they're interested in learning. And there are other kids, they go to school and they do all kinds of foolish things and they don't get good grades because they're not really interested in learning. They're more interested in smoking marijuana or just talking nonsense, and their mind is out of control. Unfortunately, they put all kids together. Sometimes they do have advanced courses for kids who are more interested in learning, and just regular courses for kids that are not so interested in learning. So here it says, when Krishna says, Tesam Satati Yuktanam Vachatam Pratipurvakam, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam, this indicates that Krishna is prepared to give bhakti yoga to everyone, but, and that's a big but, one must be capable of receiving it. That is the secret. Thus, when a person exhibits wonderful devotional activities, a thoughtful man understands that Krishna has been more favorable to this devotee. Wonderful devotional activities. A thoughtful man understands that Krishna has been more favorable to this devotee. This is not difficult to understand, but envious persons do not accept that Krishna has bestowed his favor upon a particular devotee in accordance with his advanced position. Such foolish persons become envious and try to minimize an advanced devotee's activities. That is not Vaishnavism. A Vaishnava should appreciate the service rendered to the Lord by other Vaishnavas. Therefore, a Vaishnava is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Nirmatsara. Vaishnavas are never envious of other Vaishnavas or of anyone else, and therefore they are called Nirmatsaranam Satam. Yeah, this enviousness is very dangerous. And when there is enviousness, it causes havoc in classroom or in friendship or in any type of interactions with other people. If one is envious, it causes a lot of serious problems. Okay, now what time is it? We're almost finished. It's a big purport. Okay, we'll read it.
Yeah, but we can finish it.
As Bhagavad Gita informs us, one can understand how one is saturated. Saturated, I like that word, saturated. It means like fully fully involved, right? One is saturated with sattva guna, rajaguna, or tamaguna. Okay. As Bhagavad Gita informs us, one can understand how one is saturated with sattva guna, rajaguna, or tamaguna. In the examples given herewith, fire represents the mode of goodness. One can understand the constitution of a container for wood, petrol, or other inflammable substances by the quantity of the fire. Similarly, water represents Rajaguna, the mode of passion. A small skin and a small skin and a vast Atlantic Ocean both contain water. Interesting. A small skin and the vast Atlantic Ocean both contain water. Yeah, okay. In other words, if you have some water in your hand, that's not really going to hold a lot of water. And by seeing the quantity of water in a container, one can understand the size of the container. The sky represents the mode of ignorance. The sky is present in a small earthen pot and also in outer space. Thus, by proper judgment, one can see who is a devata or demigod and who is an asura, yaksha or rakshasa, according to the quantity of sattvaguna, rajaguna, and tamaguna. One cannot judge whether a person is a devata, an asura, or a rakshasa by seeing him, but a sane man can understand this by the activities such a person performs. A general description is given in the Padma Purana. Vishnu Bhakta Smrito Daiva Asuras Tad Viparyaya. A devotee of Lord Vishnu is a demigod, whereas an asura or yaksha is just the opposite. As an asura, not a devotee of Lord Vishnu, instead, for his sense gratification, he is a devotee of the demigods, Bhutas, Pretas, and so on. Thus, one can judge who is a devata, and who is a rakshasa, and who is an asura by how they conduct their activities. Well, that's right. You can understand a person by who that person associates with. If he associates with nonsense people, well, you can understand that he is not really a serious person. And if he associates always with genuine devotees, then you can understand that he is interested in learning and also making progress spiritually. The word Atmanam in this verse means Paramatmanam. The Paramatma or super soul is situated in the core of everyone's heart. Anta ta. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Ishvara sarvabhutana hridise rijunatistati. The Ishvara, Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, gives directions to everyone in terms of one's capabilities in taking the instruction. Now, that is a very major statement. In one's capabilities in taking the instructions. Yeah, there's some kids in school, they don't want to be educated. You can tell who they are. They don't do their homework. They talk in class. They, are doing nonsense things all the time. So they're not really interested in being educated. Whereas other kids who listen very carefully to the instructions of the teacher, who do their homework, who are always on time, they don't miss any classes and so forth. You can tell who is interested in being educated and who is a nonsense person. The instructions of Bhagavad Gita are open to everyone, equal uh, access to knowledge. But some people understand them properly, whereas others understand them so improperly that they cannot even believe in the existence of Krishna. Although reading Krishna's book, wow, although the Gita says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, indicating that Krishna spoke, they cannot understand Krishna. This is due to their misfortune or incapability, which is caused by Rajaguna and Tamaguna, depending on what you eat, whether you bathe regularly, and whether you can focus on hearing or your mind is always wandering. This is due to their misfortune or incapability, which is caused by Rajaguna and Tamaguna, the modes of passion and ignorance. It is because of these modes that they cannot even understand Krishna, whereas an advanced devotee like Arjuna understands him and glorifies him, saying, Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavam. You are the supreme Brahman, the supreme abode and purifier. Krishna is open to everyone, but one needs the capability to understand him. By external features, one cannot understand who is favored by Krishna and who is not. Although, according to one's attitude, Krishna becomes one's direct advisor, or Krishna becomes unknown. This is not partiality. It is his response to one's ability to understand him. According to one's receptiveness, that's the main point. According to one's receptiveness, whether he be a Devata, Asura, Yaksha, or Rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, that's it right there. The ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur gives a practical example in this connection. In the sky, there are many luminaries and many stars. At night, even in darkness, the moon is extremely brilliant and can be directly perceived. The sun is also extremely brilliant. When covered by clouds, however, these luminaries are not distinctly visible. Similarly, the more one advances in sattva guna, the more his brilliance is exhibited by devotional service. But the more one is covered by rajoguna and tamoguna, the less visible his brilliance, for he is covered by these qualities. The visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, that's a fact. It depends on whether the living entity is really interested in making spiritual advancement or not so interested and not able to focus on what to do in devotional service. The visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. No, Krishna is giving Krishna consciousness to everyone. It depends on their ability to accept the instructions that Krishna is doing and or is offering. It is due to various coverings in different proportions. Thus, one can understand how far he has advanced in terms of sattva guna and how much he is covered by rajoguna and tamo guna. Okay, so this is explaining the gunas. And if you study the gunas, then you can easily understand who is in the mode of goodness, who is in the mode of passion, and who's in the mode of ignorance. Okay, I think we are going to stop right there. That's a good place to stop, because this gives us let's say, possibility to understand who is spiritually advanced, who is mildly advanced, and who is not advanced at all. It depends on the guna. If one is in the mode of goodness, that means such a person is very uh, involved in learning and understanding Krishna consciousness. If someone is more interested in making a lot of money and spending the money and engaging in sense gratification, okay, they are very active, but their activity is not really focused on Krishna consciousness, it's focused on sense gratification. And if they are lazy and don't really do, let's say, homework, they're not really interested in being educated, so they're in the mode of ignorance. So we have goodness, passion, and ignorance. Therefore, it says, and this is our takeaway for today, the visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is due to various coverings in different proportions. Thus, one can understand how far he is advanced in terms of sattva guna and how much he is covered by raja guna and tamo guna. Yeah, so that's a very profound statement. It says the visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, Krishna is neutral. If someone makes a real serious effort to surrender to Krishna and to learn more and more about how to follow Krishna's instructions, that means that person is in the mode of goodness and is making tangible spiritual advancement. But there are other people who just mildly engage in learning about Krishna, but they're not really strongly determined. So they make some spiritual advancement, but not much. And then there are others who don't care at all about learning anything about Krishna. And they are in deep ignorance. And they suffer because of that. And all kinds of bad habits are developed by such people. Okay, so the visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That means that Krishna is equal to everyone, but he is not responsible if someone does nonsensical things. That's their choice. It's not Krishna not forcing them to do that. That's why it says the visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is due to various coverings in different proportions. Thus, one can understand how far he is advanced in terms of sattva guna and how much he is covered by raja guna and tama guna. Yeah, so if someone is eating meat, gambling, engaging in illicit sex, they're in tama guna. If someone is working very hard to make a lot of money and spending the money and doesn't have much time for Krishna consciousness, they are in Rajaguna. And if someone is always engaged in devotional service and not interested in making a lot of money or in becoming very famous, but are very humble and engaged in devotional service regularly every day, now you can understand who's in the mode of goodness, who's in the mode of what you call Rajaguna, and who's in the mode of Tamaguna. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Are there any questions?
Yes. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Haribol, Mataji.
Yeah, Maharaj, the Rajaguna and Tamaguna, is it caused by the consciousness of, I'm by the food we eat? Um, the gunas, they come from the association with people and the food we eat. Does that make sense? Can you clarify that? Thank you.
Yes, there are foods in the mode of goodness, there are foods in the mode of passion, and there are foods in the mode of ignorance. Like some people, they eat nakmam. You know what that is? It is a food that's in the mode of ignorance. And nakmam is eaten mostly by people that are in a very deep ignorance. It smells bad, it tastes horrible, and they still eat it. So you can do the smell test. If you smell food that smells rotten, you can understand that someone is really in ignorance. And if you smell food that is somewhat is a little bit funny, does it really smell real bad, but it doesn't smell really good either? All right, well, they're, in the mode of passion because they try and what you would call uh, eat things and put a lot of condiments to uh, uh, cover the bad smell or the bad, let's say, taste of the food. So they put, a lot of chilies or a lot of different, like ketchup and so forth to make to hide the food's taste. Or if it's in the mode of goodness, they only eat things that are fresh and are not too, let's say, not too much chilies and not uh, smelling bad and so forth. So there's what we call uh, the proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. So, according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, yeah. So, if one is more interested in baseball, football, basketball, and this ball and that ball, they're not going to make as much spiritual advancement as someone who is really interested in making spiritual advancement. Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. The proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. That is our takeaway today. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually, it is not such. But actually, it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. Here it is. So, it's just like in school. There are some kids who don't like to do their homework and come late to school or even skip school. And then when there's a test, they have to stay up all night long trying to cram into their mind what they should have learned months before. But they didn't learn it because they were doing nonsense. So that type of academic activity is complete waste of time. One should do homework every day, should ask questions of the teacher to be able to understand properly what is being said and what the homework is and so forth. Yeah, so there are kids who are really excited to learn, and there are kids who are not interested at all to learn. Or there are kids that are in the middle. Sometimes they do their homework, sometimes they don't. So uh, everything depends on one's receptiveness. That means the ability to understand and do things on time and so forth. According to one's receptiveness, whether one be a devata, asura, yaksha, or rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality. But actually, it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. So according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. So if we're not really interested in advancing in Krishna consciousness, then we don't learn anything. We remain ignorant. Or if we are very, very receptive to learning about Krishna consciousness, then we make spiritual advancement. It all depends on our receptiveness. I like that word, receptiveness. According to one's receptiveness, whether to be a devata, asura, yaksha, or rakshasa, Krishna's qualities proportionately exhibited. That is our takeaway for today. According to one's receptiveness, whether one be a devata, asura, yaksha, or rakshasa, Krishna's qualities proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is not. It is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. Okay, that is our takeaway for today. Just like in school, there are some kids that are really interested in learning. There are other kids that they want to do the minimum, and there are other kids that don't want to do anything. They're not interested in being educated. They want to play basketball or football or this ball or that ball. So there are always these different levels of interests in being educated. Okay, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Are there any questions or comments?
Maharaj, one clarification on the word this ability that you have just read. It says Krishna is equal to everyone and according to one's ability to receive.
Or according to one's receptivity.
Yeah, so this the word capability also came just before that. So receptiveness, capability, or ability. So it's so in material world, it's more about how brain is sharp, like whether some kid is more intelligent, they can understand maths, physics more sharply. But here in Krishna consciousness, is it more about which mode they are rather than the brain power? Is that the correct understanding? Like some, because everyone is different, everyone has different intellectual level. So it's not related to intellectual level, right? Here is more about which mode they
It
are.
depends on how receptive one is. If they're really interested in a subject, they'll do everything to learn about that thing, right? They're receptive. They're excited to learn. And they come on time, they do their homework, they ask questions of the teacher, they'll do extra things to make spiritual advancement and so forth. They're excited about learning. There are other kids that just want to do the minimum. And there are other kids that are not interested at all to be educated properly. So, according to one's receptiveness, whether one be a Devata, Asura, Yaksha, or Rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is not, it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. Here it is. We have to be excited about learning about Krishna consciousness. That's why you're taking the effort to come every day to the class and hear the knowledge that's being given and asking questions and discussing things and so forth. That means you're really interested in learning about Krishna consciousness. Okay, well, thank you very much, my dear devotees. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy and always engage in hearing and learning about Krishna conscious knowledge. So our takeaway for today is according to one's receptiveness, whether one be a Devata, Asura, Yaksha, or Rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. So we have this statement, according to one's receptiveness. And then later on it says, but actually, there's no such thing as partiality. Krishna is equal to everyone. And according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. There it is. Those are two takeaways for today. Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Have a very good day today and become very receptive to learning about Krishna. Should be excited every day to learn more and more about Krishna. And according to one's receptiveness, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. So if we're very excited to learn, Krishna will give us every opportunity to learn and increase in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, The proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive, big word, to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. So if we have a really ardent desire to learn about Krishna consciousness, and Krishna will do everything to help us to advance in Krishna conscious knowledge and Krishna conscious activities, and eventually to attain love and devotion for Krishna. It all depends on our receptiveness, big word, what we're willing to accept. If we're not willing to accept or be educated, well, you're not going to learn anything. If you're excited to be receptive and learn as much as you can, then you're going to be educated. Hare Krishna. Okay, well, I guess we'll stop right there. So after 8 o'clock in the morning, our takeaway is to be very receptive of learning about Krishna. Whether one be a devata, asura, yaksha, or rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. The proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality, but actually it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, one advances in Krishna consciousness. That is our takeaway for today. Haribol. There is no partiality on the part of Krishna. He's equal to everyone. But if one is really excited, really interested, really dedicated to learning about Krishna, then Krishna gives that person all advantages of how to learn and how to act and how to be always awake to learning more and more about Krishna. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.